practical strategies for building a powerful professional brand that opens doors. No doubt many of us here have wondered and asked ourselves questions. How do I brand myself? How do I show up in the professional workspace? Obviously, the stuff that you do on WhatsApp and what you do in your professional workspaces are different, right? And also how you present yourselves on LinkedIn. But do we really know what the difference is? And this is what this panel is going to discuss and reveal more to us. Let me not take too much of your time, right? As I mentioned, that our first panel discussion is on practical strategies for building a very powerful professional brand that opens doors. And our moderator for this panel is Farayi, and she is the Acting Director, Policy and Market Development from the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. A round of applause for Farayi as she comes through, and she will introduce the rest of the panelists who are going to be on that panel discussion. To the people who are here for the first time, I'd like to say welcome. And to those who have been here before, thank you very much for coming here again. Clearly you see value in what we're doing here. A round of applause for Farayi.
Thank you, Tariro. I trust I'm audible at the back near the Chingetedzai banner. Audible, clear? Thank you. And in the lady in the red top at the back, thank you. So thank you for the introduction, Tariro, and thank you for raising the bar in terms of the height of the mic. I've got to lower it a little. I thought I was a tall girl, but there are those who are clearly taller than I am. I have the distinct honor of moderating a conversation in what I have termed a magnificent panel of financial markets actors, seasoned, experienced, real, humble, and all the things that we look for across the spectrum. But I will not preempt anything which they might say. I will invite them up, and while they are settling, I'll ask them to open their water, relax, open their devices, make sure they're working, and that's when I'll deliver a few remarks. Because, we all get a bit nervous ahead of these things. And it's good to be able to recognize that and then make sure that we are all comfortable and ready to do the work. So as I announce their names, they will come up in whichever way they want to, climb up through the back, through the front, come round, whatever you're comfortable doing. Sit where you want to. And if I forget who you are, which I know I won't, just answer the question anyway when I say your name. So in the order they were provided, Gloria Zvaravanhu is the Managing Director of Old Mutual Insurance Company. Please come up, Gloria. And following Gloria is Farayi Mangwende, a namesake, and she's Group Marketing and Strategy Coordinator for First Mutual Holdings. And Valeta Mthimkhulu is Managing Director of CBZ. And Valeta, congratulations on your new appointment. Following her is Pamela Chinhoyi, Head of Marketing, NMB Bank. And last but not least, and amongst our sponsors, thank you very much, ZB, is Cynthia Muzira. She's Executive Head Marketing, ZB Financial Holdings. So, while they are catching their breath, I'm going to do a little something. And I apologize in advance. Thank you so much, Tari. I apologize in advance to the sponsors who've paid a lot of money to do what I'm about to do, but I'm doing it in support of Give to Gain, which is the Women's Month theme. And I'm also doing it to make sure that we're all feeling settled and have breath in our lungs to then deliver on the expectation. So I'm giving to gain, and I'm also wanting to illustrate that we are not any one thing as we begin to talk about brands and branding and professional branding, etc. We are many things, but all in one. And I'm hoping that this morning's conversation is going to be exploring these areas, given what I've called the magnificent panel that is in front of us. So, firstly, I don't know which to start with, maybe the book. I'm giving the panelists in advance, because I know they're going to be awesome, the copy of a book which myself and Farayi Mangwende contributed to, and it's called Township Girls. So in advance, a copy for each. Please grab one and pass it along. I've put a little message in there for you, and of course Farayi will not get one because she has plenty. And then, because we are not any one thing, I'm just illustrating here that I contributed a chapter to a book, so I qualified to call myself a writer. And then I also make a chili sauce at night and at weekends. It's called chisa. And I'm giving a jar each to the participants, but I won't give it to you because it'll be awkward to carry, right? So I'll give it to you at the table. So this is chisa. So, as we are speaking branding, you can see that we are going to be exploring. Tari, can I give this back, or let me give it back to the table? We are clearly going to be exploring a multiplicity of ideas and a multiplicity of persona. And amongst my remarks, I say, the personal brand is not confined to hair or war paint or heels. What if we discover that it encompasses what you spend your time on, the membership of your network, who you allow to access you, the rationale informing the boundaries that you erect or demolish, the alignment between your private and public persona, and much, much more. This panel before you will explore these and other ideas. And in all of this, we recognize that our foundation, our background, our upbringing, our culture contribute to the brand that we become. But the question might be, what is the objective? Why do we wake up and show up as you have done and as they have done? I might suggest an answer, perhaps, to gain financial freedom, and perhaps more so to find purpose. It is also as personal as to feel the way I promised myself I would feel once I made it and once I got there. In every woman is a profound story. I know two women. I know a market trader, and she's part of my chili sauce value chain. She provides me with chilies and tomatoes. And the other is an angel funder. The market trader is formidable. She's streetwise, she's vibrant, she's assertive, she's energetic and sometimes rude. She offers me quality produce and wears red lipstick at the beginning of the day. By the end of the day, it is faded to a red dye smudged on her lips. But that is her. The angel funder, on the other hand, is very low-key, inquiring, self-effacing, asks a lot of questions, dresses simply, and travels by private jet. They both know what I need, and Sawi, as I call the market trader, will give it to me, while the funder will wait until I've articulated what it is I believe I need. One is financially free, while the other seeks financial freedom. Two purposes on opposing sides of the spectrum. Both have built their brands. Both are leaders. Which helps me transition to the conversation. And I know my friends' nerves have calmed considerably, and they are ready for us to jump in. And I'm starting with Valeta, who's nicely ensconced in the middle at the center of the stage. Valeta, you lead one of the country's major banks, and you're a relatively new leader, which is fantastic because you will bring a certain perspective to the discussion. When you look at leaders across the financial services sector, what, in your opinion, separates those with commanding professional presence from those who remain invisible? Is a strong brand a nice to have or a business imperative for career professionals and for progression? Valeta?
So good morning, everyone. Lovely to see you. So you know, when you get a question like that, it's always to say, do you go straight to it, or do you kind of take the winding road? So the simple answer is it's a business imperative, right? Because we all operate in role, and for me, when I look at it, I think when you're building a personal brand, I always come from a perspective of my own clarity. So part of my own journey has really been an evolving understanding of myself in my personal space, and also myself in role. And I always talk about the fact that while we are one person, we occupy different roles. And it's critically important to understand who you are in role, who you are in person, and how not to conflate the two. In financial services, particularly for me, stepping back into Zim, I think, and coming into a new role, right, and a senior role at that, is almost a reawakening or a re-understanding of, how am I perceived? How do people see me in role? And a reassessment of what is the intentionality that I want to bring to, if I may say, this new personal brand, because it's an intentional process. And for me, because it's a new role, the journey is at its infancy. But in my mind, I like to get very clear about how do you position, or how do I position my own presence over the position? So I'm a firm believer in being honest to self first, because being honest to self and how I show up in any position that I then occupy starts with that first imperative for me, because that's how I will make sure I enjoy what I do, how I show up authentically. And it's been an interesting journey, right? So I recently moved back from Botswana. And Botswana is I find that in the market as a generality, the way that leaders would behave or are viewed is very different. So they're very human to a certain extent. So it is not strange to have an MD, a minister, going to buy their lunch, from the street vendor. I then, when I first moved back, I went to buy myself lunch at Nando's. And it was a huge controversy in the office. Like, why are you walking to buy Nando's? So I've had to do a lot of work on, I'm not a ma'am. I'm a firm believer in not creating barriers that are not necessary, and being intentional about what is my presence of a position. And in the few conversations I've had, I like to come out, hopefully, as that. I'm Valeta. I'm human first. I'm a lady trying to do her thing, her own way. And in doing that, there is an intentionality that you also need to bring, that I do know what I'm doing. So I think clarity about the value that you bring is also important, particularly in boardrooms in the financial services sector. So for me, to a certain extent, it's the visibility of our influence. And those who know me, I don't shrink into any corner. I'm clear about my opinions, my views. I'm also clear that I'm not always right. So if I've made a mistake, I'll learn from it, but that does not take away from my ability to influence to try and change the course of something, that I touch. And my own personal view of myself as a leader and what I try to do is always add value. If I'm not adding value to a space, then that starts to clash with how I want my own brand, to be presented, perceived. And I also build that with intentionality. And probably as I wrap up, two things, and this talks to the relationships we build. And also, I like to say my own superpower as a woman leader. As women, and as this particular woman, I have a superpower. I'm blessed with emotional intelligence. It comes partly with the territory, but also it gives me a perspective that sometimes is not in the room. I have a good gut feeling, and I'm not shy about that. I can say in a meeting, this is how I feel about something. I don't necessarily always think I need to present myself as that harder form, so I come with all of myself. I always say for the teams, if I ask you to do something and it's not moving, I will nag you to death because I have that particular skill also. I can multitask, I can nag. And I always say to women that I come across, if anyone says you nag, it is not a problem. It is just a question of how do you understand it in yourself and how do you use all of your unique abilities to bring value and to build on your personal brand. Finally, for me, is the issue of help. So personal branding can be an intuitive process. I did say it's a business imperative. So if it is a business imperative, it requires skill in order to build it. And we're not all required to have that skill. So, you get help. And I have lots of conversation about my own personal brand with fantastic, people that I've worked with around branding and marketing. And they'll give me almost that rear view mirror on, this is where we think you should go. This is where we think we want to build. And this is where we think you're getting it right. And being open to that conversation and being open to receiving help, for me, is an important imperative also to saying, what is that brand that you want to build for yourself? So if I was to summarize, being clear about what it is that you stand for, using all of your unique abilities to present yourself in that unique space, because branding is about what is unique about you, whether we're talking about entities or individuals. And being intentional about the process that you follow and getting help if you are on a journey to build. Let me rest it there.
Amazing. My pen is running off the page. So much wisdom, insights, a different take on what one thought one knew. Thank you very much, Valeta. And it's a great point to transition to Farayi and say, you craft brand strategy for a living. And I know that personally because I've watched the journey and the amazing work that you've done. How much of professional branding is intentional? And of course, we are borrowing immediately from Valeta's sharing, is intentional strategy versus authentic reputation, that whole organic thing that to a large extent, women perhaps are socialized to rely on, maybe over-rely on, but I won't preempt your remarks. Can you manufacture a brand, Farayi, or must it always be a reflection of genuine competence and character?
Thanks, Farayi, and Valeta, thanks for your input. From my perspective, you have to be true to who you are, right? I'm just going to give an analogy of people love to say, oh, I'm rebranding, I'm remaking myself.
Yeah.
But you actually cannot, because who you are at the center of it is really what comes out. We have, we can use our DNA, for example, right? I shall be very controversial. You can go and get your BBL. You can go and do your whatever. People do that because they want to rebrand. They want to come across a certain way. But who you really are. Let's say you then go and have children, and then they look nothing like you because you've changed and you're not the authentic you. So very controversial, example, so to speak. So at the end of the day, whatever it is that you do, I think a professional brand is not something you manufacture, it's something you reveal, right? So how you're brought up, for example, plays a big role in it. I will give an example of myself. I think everyone that knows me, I'm extremely organized to a fault, right? I'm very organized. I'm very intentional about everything that we do. Yes, you can be spontaneous, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to be intentional and competent in everything that you do, I think that your professional brand will suffer. So competence, I think, is a big, big deal. So whether you're, like you mentioned, a street vendor, whether it's the angel funder, whether you've moved from Botswana, I think that's where I remember you from, Valeta, or, whether you are a cleaner. You know what I mean? You have to be competent. And then when we talk about strategy, that's then the tools that you amplify your skill set, what it is that you do. But in the same breath, I think as bringing it back to the professional brand, you can be excellent at all those things. You can be the best, a finance executive. You can be the best, strategist. You're crafting strategy behind your computer, behind your screen. But if you're invisible, the market can't reward you. They don't know who you are. So they actually don't know who this professional brand is. You're just someone in the cog. You're important, but you're basically part of the engine and no one can actually see you. So I think that your personal brand lives at the intersection of three things. We spoke about competence, but also what do you consistently deliver, right? What is it that you consistently deliver? Gloria here is nodding quietly. I know Gloria is like, she believes in excellence. That's what I associate you with. She really is just an excellent person, very quietly doing it, but very prepared and excellent. That's how I associate you. So I hope that I've got you correct. And with Farayi, for example, the other Farayi with an AI, I'm Farayi with a YI, so you can differentiate us. She epitomizes, in my opinion, Vakoma. She's always going to shepherd you into doing the right things. She's consistent. She shows up consistently, irrespective of whether it is we were writing this book. When we felt like we couldn't be bothered, she never gave up. We let life get in the way, but she's very consistent and does things
Thank you.
100%. So at the end of it all, like I said, your brand lives at the intersection of three things: what you constantly deliver, what people say about you when you leave the room, right? I gave the example of these two ladies here, and what problems people trust you to solve, right? So that is so, so important, right? For myself, I walk into a room and I have to rein myself in sometimes, and then I can immediately, I think that's my superpower, see things that are wrong and can see what is going to go wrong ahead of the situation before it goes wrong. So I will generally come in and try and fix it. I was making Farayi laugh and saying that the role that I do at work, the strategy part of it and the marketing, I'm a Muzukuru in a nutshell. So everyone can trust me that whatever happens, I will come and fix it. I'm not afraid to speak truth to power. I will call out on things. So it's that consistency. So once you know what it is that you're delivering, the strategy around it simply ensures that people see the right signal, right? So, are you going to show up when you're asked to be a panelist? Are you going to attend the events that are needed? Are you going to show up at your child's school? Because it's not always about the work situation. How do you show up for your family consistently? So that speaks to your brand. So basically, it's the right signal that you give, underpinned by competence and consistency. And therefore, if you're not going to be authentic, I don't think you can show up with all those things. The true you comes out. And also, we're not all the same. And I think that's the pressure that sometimes happens, I think, in professional branding, maybe because Farayi is very confident. She's a good speaker. She shows up. She's driven. And maybe that's not my core competency. Maybe I'm the person that works behind the scenes. but everyone knows that when I'm not there, the behind the scenes doesn't work. And if I step in the front and that's not my core competency, you know what I mean? Then you're not being genuine. You force yourself to do things, but at a certain point, you end up masking and not being the true version of yourself, and then you become resentful. So, yes, people can rebrand in inverted commas, but I don't think that you can fake it, because who you are will come out. But what you can do is design how people experience you. So even from behind the scenes, even if you're right at the front, how do people experience you? I think that's a key. My last remark in terms of
Farayi, that is just amazing, and you're getting because you are leading us very naturally into the next question, which is addressed to Gloria. And it is, okay, having said what Valeta has said and Farayi has focused it more, but what does it mean to, in this case, where Gloria sits on several boards and in her day-to-day, she's at the apex of her organization. How heavily does the personal brand and its visibility and thought leadership and network weigh in decision making? You know, maybe you're looking at appointing a board member, you are looking at sending an emissary to a particular negotiation. What role does the personal brand play in that? And what doors does a strong brand open?
Thank you, Sis Farayi. So one consistent thing about her is that I call her Sis Farayi, she calls her Vakoma. And you would think that we call everyone who is older. I'm not disclosing your age, Sis Farayi, but
I'd be happy to next month.
That we call everyone who's older than us Sis or Vakoma, but not necessarily. There's something that is embodied in Vakoma or Sis, and it's somebody who celebrates others. It's somebody who pushes others in the right direction. And Farayi has already said that. So thumbs up to you, Sis Farayi. You are a true epitome of a brand. And she shows up colorfully all the time. So before I answer your question, so I just wanted to add to the volume of knowledge that has already been shared by Valeta and Farayi about being a brand, and say that a brand is not what you think you are. It's what people see. Experiential, as Farayi has said. So it's what people say when you're not in the room. And if you have my mobile number, you probably see that I post statuses every day. And today I posted a status. One of them says that the most dangerous person is the one who thinks their perspective is reality, their perspective, because it's about other people's perspective. And so when we're talking about personal branding, it's also about the impressions that you create. And first impressions stick. So whatever you've been known for initially, to debunk that in people's minds is more difficult. So it's very important to show up the first time and show up right. But coming to boards, really, I think reputation goes before a CV.
Yeah.
The name of a person goes before a CV. So when we are talking about these senior level positions into boards, before the CV lands on someone's desk, somebody has said their name. They've said, we know Farayi or we know Valeta. And this is what they can bring to the table. And then they say, bring their CV. So you see the CV comes after your name. So it's very important for you to have that brand. And you need that brand that is credible, that is sound, that practices sound judgment, and that has integrity, because that then opens those practical doors that Sis Farayi has asked me about. And what are those practical doors? It gets you on the shortlist for the people that are being considered. It builds the trust before the interview. So before you even go into the room for people to meet you, and in most cases, this senior leadership roles is not a proper interview. They'll say, can we meet you for lunch? Can we meet you for coffee? They're already interviewing you, but they already have a perspective of you. And so that brand attracts opportunities to you. Because if that brand was not known, then you would not have the opportunity. Ladies and the few gentlemen that I see in the room, when it comes to senior positions, when you see it being advertised, in most cases, they already have people in mind. That is the reality. because it's the reputation and the brand that goes. And I'm not saying don't apply for the roles. Do apply, because maybe your name is already there.
Yeah.
But when you then put in that CV, they already know. So what do boards recruit? Boards recruit reputations. At that level, they don't just recruit a person or appoint a person. They recruit the reputation that comes with you. They look at you and they say, is this someone that we want to be part of us? Is this someone that we can trust, that can think at this level, at board level? And is this someone that will strengthen our own brand and reputation? So very, very important that your brand goes ahead of you. Thank you.
Whew. Okay. Welcome to those who are just joining us. I'm taking Tariro's job away from her because the room has filled up beautifully. And now the echo is less. Thanks for your arrival. And the gentlemen that have joined us, welcome to you. And the conversation is heading in a very, very interesting and also practical direction. Cynthia, and thank you for your sponsorship at ZB. We are very grateful. You lead marketing at ZB Holdings, a group with diverse subsidiaries across banking, insurance, and other financial services. And of course, some of your entities are also regulated by us at Securities and Exchange Commission. But from your vantage point, how does professional branding, and I love the suit, it's telling me a lot before you even open your mouth. How does professional branding differ across the various sectors, in your opinion? Within our financial services group, you have a group, but perhaps in each of those silos, there's something that is slightly different, some tweaking that is being done. Does a brand that works in banking, for example, translate to, say, insurance, where Gloria and Farayi are from?
Thank you, Farayi. And I'll start off by borrowing from the former speakers. And for those who are not in, maybe by actually also defining what professional brand is before I actually delve into my submission. So I'll borrow from Gloria where she speaks about the value that actually comes with the brand. So true, a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And then there's also the bit from where I'm sitting. Sometimes we confuse your personality and the brand and the professional brand. So what do I mean from there? Your brand should give you commercial value. If you are really an authentic brand, it should give you commercial value. So commercial value is also what Gloria has talked to. It precedes you. It's what people believe you give impact on. If your brand is not giving you opportunities, if it's not giving you a financial value to it, then it's just a personality that you have. So I'll bring it even, yeah. Because it's not about fame, it's about impact. It's about how you're sought after for a specific line of expertise. So it starts off from defining who you are, how you want to impact the community, the people around you. If I could actually then borrow from Farayi, the writer, they're both writers. It's about relationships. So if you look at it, there's a thread that cuts across what is being defined as a brand. So there's that relatability, the impact, the value that you're bringing, and the relationships. Gloria talked about boards. They have to know you. So it means you've got some sort of a professional relationship that you have and what you're known for. So then when I bring it closer to home from your question, Farayi, to say, does the brand do you have to reinvent yourself if you're in different sectors, particularly financial services? So I'll start off from a financial services perspective. The key things that you look at in terms maybe from a group perspective, the brand is that thread that cuts across the different subsidiaries. And then in financial services, it's about your strategic thinking. It's about trust. It's about your reputation. It's about risk and governance, how you relate to those key dynamics. So you'll find what I've just talked to cuts across any cluster, be it insurance, investment, and banking. But what then happens if I'm in banking? It means my brand has to be more about strategic thinking the big deals. How do customers, high value customers, perceive me? And it's looking really at my technical competence and the business impact and value I bring to my customers and obviously to the business. And then you find you now have to adapt. So, because when you move in the insurance space, I always think insurance is technical. So it means your brand has to lean more towards the technical aspect of things, the risk bit of things. But then if you look at it really, at the end of the day, it's about adaptability. So it means if I'm working in banking, I can be a technical leader or a thought leader in terms of maybe SME banking and the impact it has, innovation, digital transitions, and things like that. So it's now how I'm reinventing myself in the next space. So it's not so much about totally reinventing yourself. It's now adapting to the next. So if I move from banking to insurance, the core me remains as the core me. But it's now how I'm adapting myself to the space I'm getting into. So if just to summarize it, I would then say emphasis is on your adaptability to the different business lines that you'll be looking at. And it's about ability to structure solutions quickly and your visibility within corporates. And then practically, that means you don't have to reinvent yourself, but you adapt to your language, which I've already talked to. And I would say, let's be deliberate and intentional as we create these brands. Let's cover space that you can't be a jack of everything. So it means within the space you're operating on, I'd say choose one and be very good at it and look at what are the key attributes that you're supposed to have and mine value from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. These are all resonating, and feel free to applaud when you want to, and even in between time is fine, because what do they say? Things hit us differently. So it's good to respond, react, and validate that comment. So Pamela, I'm coming to you next, but I'll also come to you again twice. I think you need the mic in readiness. So you sit, Pamela, at the intersection of corporate brand and customer experience. In your observation, which professionals within NMB, and I mean, NMB in my era had a particular reputation. I'm not sure if it still has it, but I'll be interested in hearing what you will share. And it resonates very much with the contribution we had just now, where the impression was created that there's a mirroring that takes place, or an osmosis, maybe the science will confirm, between how you show up and the business or the brand that you are supporting or serving. On the one hand, I would confirm that is probably true, but on the other, I'm not too sure, because we now have boardrooms, offices, spaces that are stuffed full of these suits that I rebel against, Gloria, a lot of the time. I will wear what the gentlemen amongst us are wearing when I feel I need to, but then I'll also break free whenever I can, like a forum like this. So tell us about your impression, Pamela, about, in your opinion, which professionals within NMB have built the most magnetic personal brands? Maybe you won't name them by name. And what common traits do they share?
Thank you. I think NMB was founded by Mavericks, and we were the first indigenous bank in Zimbabwe. Yeah. So I call them the four Mavericks that began the bank. And also when you look at the foundation of NMB, their payoff line was in pursuit of excellence. Mm-hmm. And everything that they did was in pursuit of that excellence. And you realize when you look at our vision, it's to be the leading financial services group in our chosen markets. And it's very important now when everybody joins the brand to be able to be a personification of the brand. So each and every one of us, every interaction, every engagement is in pursuit of excellence. So everybody, regardless of wherever they are in terms of the hierarchy, they are in pursuit of excellence, and they're embodying that excellence in everything they do. And basically this cascades again from the genesis, the Mavericks that started the bank. And I believe we are carrying that flame well.
Amazing. Absolutely. I'm forced to agree with you because I saw it in action. And here you are still riding on the momentum that those magnetic brands set. So we've spoken about the background. You know, we've set the scene and everyone's had a chance to talk. The vocal cords are working. They are warm. And now we are moving into a more sort of practical tactics, tools area. And it's the how, building the brand. So I would say, as we are transitioning and then also linking the earlier segment to this one, how I've built my brand, and I think it is to do with how I'm perceived. And thank you very much for the reflections. I'm eternally grateful. How I have built my brand over the decades, I think it's a balance between intrinsic factors and the extrinsic. And I think in a forum like this, it's more helpful to speak about the extrinsic because the external is shared. We all have access to it. It's a democratic space. And by and large, it is free. It is an association. It is relationships, if I borrow from what our contributors have shared. So let me talk a little bit about that just by way of opening up the segment. So the external is free. It's democratic. It's like air. The value of modeling ourselves on other women is priceless. And men, I will add, out of respect for those who are joining us today. But for me, these women include, and I quote, Mildred Chiri, for me, is just a magnificent professional. You know, she mirrors this quiet, forceful, nagging presence. And to this day, some issues remain somewhat unresolved, but they are there, they are documented. So she's just a rock star as far as I'm concerned. She's the former Auditor General. Gracia Machel, do you know people don't like good-looking women? Especially when they're married to 2 presidents. And yet, when a man walks past, nobody asks whether he was married to 2 past presidents. And they don't ask him why, if at all, he wore red lipstick. But she's just someone who has given women so much more of a voice since she took to the stage with her foundation and the work of the elders around the world. I love Wangari Maathai and what she has done in the environmental space for the continent. And as a result, I grow trees myself, particularly Misasa. And since the COVID era, I've managed to grow 150 trees in my garden. I'm so proud of that. Thank you. And then I love Okonjo Ngozi at the World Bank because she's an older woman in this financial markets space of trade and trade regulation. So I love the way she shows up. I love the fact that, so consistency, she wears the same outfit but in different fabric and the same headgear in different fabric, just like that. And she's just amazing and she's just so clever and the value that she adds and the intellect and what value she brings and so on. And then finally, I also follow Christine Lagarde at the European Central Bank. These are just, you know, the French say je ne sais quoi. She's got a certain quality about her. And then she wears her scarves and, you know, she's just magnificent. So I love these women. So these assets are free for us to make use of and learn from. Just as these wonderful women up here are available to us to learn from and others who are in their seats and those who are not in this room. So, Pamela, you are responsible for NMB's corporate brand. It's a big responsibility given where it has come from. For an individual, what are the non-negotiable building blocks? I know we are getting a bit repetitive, but there's no harm in reinforcing. Of a strong, professional brand. Is it about content creation, public speaking, networking, or something else entirely, Pamela?
So the first non-negotiable is your competence, which is the substance of your brand. And the next is your reputation, like Gloria said, which is the trust in your brand. And finally is the visibility which is the scaling of your brand. So many of us, we quickly run to the visibility without forming the substance of our brand. So then the question is, what are you amplifying? So if you truly want to build a powerful brand, you need to make sure that you have the correct foundation, which is the competence and the reputation, and then the visibility is there to then just amplify what already is there.
Thank you so much. And what I appreciate most about you, apart from your response, is the brevity with which you are addressing the issues, which I've been reminded by our MC that we will need to do that going forward because our time must now be compressed to allow for what is to follow. So when I look at you, but I'm looking at you all the time, it'll be signaling that you need to wind up. Thank you so much, Pamela. So Farayi, we struggle with visibility. It's already been mentioned. The work is being done, and I think you alluded to this already, but the visibility is not there. What are the one or two things that you would recommend in that instance?
Thanks, Farayi. Well, I'm going to break everyone's heart and say it's not social media. It puts you out there, but when all is said and done, it's relevance, right? You need to be relevant in your space. So yes, if you're a fashionista, and your brand is about letting people see you and the clothes that you wear, Pokelo, for example, that's what she does. That's her relevance, and she's got a whole people that follow her because of that. So for you, what is it, right? What are you relevant for? So in Zim today, I think the authority is built in 3 places. Industry conversations, because we're talking about professional people. So the industry fora, do you go to those? Do you network? Right? And when you do go there, what is it that you're saying? How are you relevant in your space? Thought leadership platforms are important. Trusted professional networks are also important. Of course, all then that culminates into your social media space. So which platform are you using? LinkedIn is the best, in my opinion, professional network. You can talk about your competencies. It gives you trainings. You can be looking for someone to recruit. You can be looking for a job. So it opens the doors for those kind of conversations. And also, of course, events like this are also very important. In the interest of time, I will whiz through my response. But I think visibility really only matters in terms of your brand if it communicates expertise that solves real problems.
Yeah.
I'll let that sink in. Relevance, and are you solving real problems? I think that is a big factor in terms of professional branding. So my 3 takeaways, I think, for professionals in this room and elsewhere: don't chase platforms. They're always going to be there. But what is it that you do? Own a problem, solve it consistently, and then speak about it publicly. Then that when you do that, I think people start to associate your name with a solution. And for me, that's the beginning of a real brand. Thank you.
Solution. And Farayi, that's so good, because I'm going to ask Gloria about what I might even call a non-question, transitioning from what has been called a functional role to a leadership role. It implies that you were one thing before and now you're another, but we just learned that, in fact, you're on a continuum. Gloria, how did you make that transition?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, so a lot of you know me that my initial background is that I'm a finance professional. So I'm a chartered accountant by training. But what I realized very quickly and very soon in my career was that technical skills will get you in the room, but what will transcend you is your strategic thinking. That's what will keep you there in the room and make you progress. So someone once gave me an analogy of a graph where you have vertical and horizontal. So when your technical skills, you can choose to go vertical, up and down, become a doctorate in finance. And I could have chosen to do that very, very easily. But when you're going up the ladder and you're becoming a leader, you have to broaden. So you're now going a bit more linear, you're going horizontal, and you don't have to go so deep. vertical, you go very deep because you're an expert. But when you're going horizontal, you are understanding the few concepts. So for me, the first thing that I did is that I expanded my voice beyond just finance. I started talking about leadership, about strategy, about people, about risk, and about governance, because I saw that leadership is about seeing the whole, not just the part. And finance was just the part. The second thing I did is I invested in learning, because I wanted to understand the little bits that make the whole. And so I moved from being a CA to studying an MBA, to studying a law degree, to studying business psychology, which relates to people, because I really wanted to be wholesome in that manner. And then thirdly, I became visible through contribution. So you need to find the space that you want to contribute via, and you need to work on it. So I would work hard, but people, I think one thing that I had to unlearn is that you can work hard, but people might not notice. So you need people to notice you, so that visibility is very, very important. Positioning yourself and shaping how people experience you is very important. So work hard, builds the competency, but visibility also builds that opportunity through broadening your scope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And you also on LinkedIn, and you share, you're an avid reader, and you share, is it Soulful Sunday? Soulful Sunday. I look forward to that each time, and tracking the books that you're reading and how they're impacting you, and the generosity in sharing for us to experience that as well. But that comment then brings me to the question to Valeta to talk about, and I think you alluded to this already, Valeta, about roles. You show up perhaps in meetings with your regulator. You show up perhaps in meeting with some of the bi and multilaterals that are in our space. And then at the same time, maybe you're engaging with the workers' committee. What are the tips you would provide around managing your brand in these various interactions?
Thanks. So the conversation is very interesting, right? In the sense that I can sense the interconnectedness. So if we go back to just pure skill, stakeholder analysis, and preparation, good old, not fancy, but if audiences are different, you got to understand them differently. So I'm an advocate for doing that little bit of work in terms of your different stakeholders, because their needs are different. And if we go back, and the tools are many, you can Google them, in terms of saying, how do you do a good, deep stakeholder analysis and understand the need? Now, coming back to the leadership side of it, in my mind, two things. The skill or the muscle that we exercise is understanding ourselves and how we show up as a spectrum. It's not a singular space you're occupying. Leadership is a spectrum, and the ability to show up in that spectrum is incredibly important. So for me, if I was to have, and I'm being short now, is when you want to be visible, but you don't want to be exposed. So you're not just randomly showing up. When you're dealing with your stakeholders, just understanding it's about them and not about you and their different needs. So I see my regulator is in the room. When I meet my regulator, I have to understand what is important in that conversation. Very different need from what is important when you're having a workers' council conversation. So it's about maneuvering that spectrum.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a continuum with various expectations along it. That's perfect for us, Valeta. So in light of your regulator being in the room and the time constraints that poses, I'm going to ask Cynthia a question, then I will already come back to you for wrap-up remarks. And I think what I'll sacrifice, Tariro, is the question time. Perhaps that can come after. So Cynthia, ZB has undergone significant transformation in recent years, and I don't know whether that transformation is complete. When an organization is rebranding, as you have been, or repositioning, what opportunities does that create for individual professionals within the organization to build or accelerate their personal brands?
Thank you, Farayi. So with transformation comes so many opportunities for personal growth. you would find when you're going through something like that, you're looking for people who can translate the strategy, who can be champions to lead the internal voice. So it's usually an opportunity, if you're deliberate. I'll still borrow from the smart speakers where you speak about intentionality, being deliberate. So it means you can actually cover space within that digital transformation or rebranding or reposition to actually transcend with the brand. So I'll just talk to 3 very practical opportunities that professionals can seize in such a scenario. So first, you need to become a strategy translator. What that means is you're volunteering in briefs, presenting in town halls, or contributing to internal communication so that you actually demonstrate your skill or what you're good at or what you want people to know you about. So it's not just about your job title. And then the second step, I'd say, so you find with transformation, you form what you call cross-functional teams. So I would then recommend to say, step into those cross-functional projects. Transformation comes with tasks and work streams, and so be visible there and build your brand in a bigger way in that space so that it goes beyond your core area of competence or your department. And then the third one, which kind of talks to what Farayi has talked to about social media, but then I'd want to look at it in a slightly different fashion, where I'll say use external platform. Conferences, LinkedIn, industry platforms like this to share your lessons and your journey. So, of course, certainly with confidentiality, and that then positions you for growth. So the big shift is to align your personal narrative to your organizational narrative. I don't understand how people work for brands who've got values that don't align with their values. So you really must shift together with the brand and align, and that gives you more opportunities to take advantage of. I'm a product of that. All I needed to do was align, cover my territory, and here I am.
Amazing. In our economic setting, if we had more time, we would go a little bit deeper into, alignment of one's values to the employer, as it were, and how the dissonance may mean that someone has to exit. But be that as it may, I would like to come back to you panelists, perhaps start from Cynthia and work all the way around to say, most of what has been said has been on the fairly sort of positive, affirming growth side of the discussion. But in any conversation, in any existence on this planet, there are negatives, there are pitfalls. We stumble, we fall. In a minute each or minute and a half each, I beg you, either share something personal and quick, which would be helpful, a time when things were not so easy, or maybe just a pitfall from a technical standpoint that you'd like to leave this audience with. Starting with you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Thank you, Farayi. So for me, I will look at it from the key thing in financial services is about trust. So personally, what I look at from a brand perspective or your personal brand is, would I be comfortable if this was on the front page? Or does this align with my organization's values and obviously the regulatory environment? So as a starting point, I encourage professionals to set three clear guardrails: no commenting on confidential matters, and no sharing on market-sensitive information, and no impulsive posts on highly emotive topics. When you're angry or under the influence, just breathe, let it be. Social media also has got a way of, it just wears off when you do nothing. So I'd say balancing authenticity with discretion means you can still show your personality, your passions, and your values, but you choose your platform and your level of detail wisely. So I'll end there, otherwise I'll keep going.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. Pamela, microphone, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So I come from an HR background, and 3 years ago, I pivoted and I'm now heading marketing and customer experience. So for those who want to pivot and grow, initially when I stepped into this role, I had an imposter syndrome. it was easy for me to tell strategy from a people story, and now I had to tell strategy from a brand and customer experience story. So to everybody who is thinking of changing their career and also thinking about their personal brand, I'll borrow from Gloria. I have a career portfolio. I speak the business language and I can follow any conversation because of the skill set that I'm intentionally building. I'm also a CEO in waiting, and I'm happy I'm close to these ladies. And so keep at it. Don't give up. Sit at Mukoma's feet and learn so that you can still be able to show up authentically in your power and build a powerful brand.
Thank you so much, Pamela. That coffee is happening, right? Valeta?
So almost a similar experience in my career. So for me, I've done a few roles. I was a project manager. I was head of change, moved from that into marketing and PR, moved from that to run a business in retail, and now with MD. And what I've realized is, for me, the big pitfall was being able to hold and understand my own confidence in what I knew. Because in all of those changes, I realized I was being interpreted.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a project manager, not a marketing professional. She's a marketing person, not a business leader, and so forth and so on. So if there's anything, I think pivoting, but for me, what has really helped me through is understanding my own worth and being willing to do the work. So I think for me, it's just those two things that I would share if you face a challenge. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Valeta. Gloria?
Thank you. So I believe that because we started with personal branding, this is a very important part of who we are as people in financial markets, because people trust and bank on our trust. So for me, I would say, our brand and our reputation are our greatest asset. So the pitfall there and the risk that you have is lapsing in your integrity and losing that trust. So someone very wise taught me that when you're a leader, it's not so much about what you do, but it's also the things that you say to yourself that you don't do. You need to have I won't do list. And Farayi spoke about boundaries earlier on. That's it. Because the don't do's are those things that will then touch on your integrity. So I would say protect your brand. Your no's will protect that brand than your yeses will do. So opportunities, and I've passed on many opportunities because I could see they could lapse my integrity. They are recoverable as long as your integrity is in place. But once you lose your integrity, it's very difficult to recover it. It's like trust. Once a glass is broken, you can patch it up, but it's very difficult for it to be in the same form as it was.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And in fact, Gloria is more colorful than I am. She just happens to be having another kind of day. Farayi?
Thank you. What I would like to share, maybe perhaps not slightly deviating from the question, but again, it's a pitfall in reverse, is that I think sometimes as women, we have a fear of not standing up and being counted. So I would just encourage everyone from a personal branding perspective is don't be afraid. If an opportunity is put before you, gentlemen, with all due respect, men, even if he knows 2% of what that role requires, they'll just stand up and say, I can do it.
Yeah.
And they'll go ahead and do it. I'll just give an example of myself. So one of the things that I do is that I'll do presentations, research, and all that for my boss. So he fell ill. He's an actuary, and I think if you're in insurance, you know what kind of brain power that is. And he was supposed to present at a conference in Namibia, and he was like, "Well, guys, I'm sick. Who's going to present?" And everyone in Exco was quiet. So I just said, "Okay, I'll go." So I called my mom and I was like, I have no idea about this. So my mom was but so she was like, if it was a man, they would stand up and do it. So why didn't you do it? So I called my boss and I'm like, okay, I'm really afraid because I literally am not an actuary. And then he says, yeah, but you did the presentation, you did the research. And then, so you can speak about it confidently. And this was an international conference. So Then I thought about it, and then my mom was like, okay, what are the tools that you need if you get stuck? So I thought about it, and then I said, okay, so my personal brand, I can literally, you can wake me up and say, go and speak in front of people, and I'll do it. It's something that I do with my eyes closed. So I said, okay. So I said to my boss, okay, I'll do it, but I need support. If I get asked things that I can't ask, I know you're in hospital, you need to have your phone next to you. And if they ask me something that I'm going to go off the trail, I will send you a WhatsApp, and you need to be able to respond. And then I spoke to like our head analyst, and I said, I'm going to ask you the same thing. So yeah, they did ask questions that, because I'd done the research, and it's amazing how much you absorb, ladies, when you're in those meetings. So I could actually talk about all these insurance matters and the technical things. I sent him a WhatsApp. So it's the tools. Think on your feet and just don't be afraid. And also just back to brand. Great brands don't convince, they demonstrate. That's the difference.
Wow. It simply remains for me to thank you, this magnificent panel, for setting the stage this morning, breaking the ice, and also not being deterred by the numbers as they kept growing and swelling and as people joined the conversation. And I apologize to participants for question time being somewhat deferred. So Gloria, Farayi, Valeta, Pamela, Cynthia, thank you so very much, and I hope you stay to enjoy the deliberations. Thank you.